The most time-honored of classes in fictional stories tend to be mighty warriors. No offense to wizards who get plenty of showings like Merlin or other intelligent sorts in science fiction, but everyone tends to remember the guy who was real good with a sword. In D&D terms, you've got the paladin bringing forth God's wrath against his foes, the fighter dicing her opponents up with magical swords with ease, or the barbarian ripping people in half. But sometimes, a lighter touch is needed. There are some problems that for one reason or another you can't just unga-bunga your way through. That's not to say the problem can't be handled non-violently. I know the average D&D player, and to them the difference between a town guard and a rampaging troll is largely irrelevant. But a scalpel can do a lot more than a sword in the right circumstances. They've been known by many names: thieves, spies, assassins, and in the setting of the Elder Scrolls, we of course have the stealth archer build that every playthrough inevitably turns into. And in D&D, there's one name for them we all know it by: the rogue. The stealthy lad with, at least in my experience, exactly two kinds of results for how they play. They either land every sneak attack and outdamage the rest of the party substantially, or miss every attack they make and get punted into dirt by a goblin. But that's for later. For now, let me ask you this. Are you a fan of things getting solved quietly, one way or another? Do you like nothing more than the satisfaction of a job well done? And most importantly, do you get off on seeing just how many dice a sneak attack can give you for damage? Well then, allow me to introduce you to the rogue. The rogue was not actually in the earliest versions of this game. In the OG D&D books, it wasn't there. Thankfully, a year later in 1975, the Greyhawk supplement gave us the Thief class. Not technically called Rogue, but be honest with me, viewer, we know what rogue players do. They treat other people's coin purses like money left lying around in a dungeon. Thief is probably more accurate to what a rogue will be doing than the name Rogue implies on its own. Ironically enough, however, thieves were locked to being either chaotic or neutral lawful, and are supposed to be doing jobs for other lawful characters hiring them. Not sure what that's all about, but what I am sure about is that the D4 of hit points they got is, to be blunt, abysmal dog shit. So is only being able to use magical daggers and swords once those weapons are in play, not being able to use a shield, and being forced to wear leather armor at best. A Victorian child dying of miner's lung could take on a first edition thief. In turn, however, any race could play them, and there was no level cap for the class, unlike Fighter. Using spell scrolls was fine, any lock could be opened by them, even magical ones. They could hide and climb anywhere, including on sheer surfaces like Spider-Man, disable any trap, and pickpocket with impunity. Feels almost Batman in nature. With the right preparation and tools, an early D&D thief could take on even the greatest threats. Without the right prep and tools, it's like when DC writers remember that while Batman is cool, he is a normal person made out of normal people bones, and tends to not handle it very well when Darkseid punches him in those same very breakable bones. And that's just the most basic overall stuff. Sneak attack was back then a 4-up bonus to hit as well as double damage against unaware enemies, which is insane. Thieves were also for some reason able to read just about 80% of all languages ever created by 3rd level, because why not? And while elf and dwarf thieves, while allowed, were pretty heavily encouraged to multiclass due to various racial nonsense, halfling thieves got a 10% bonus to, well, thief things. Basically everything a thief was doing, a halfling was better at. As for rogues in general, the only other major downside, other than a D4 of hit points, oh my lord, was anything to do with clerical matters. First edition gods apparently all hate thieves, even though off the top of my head I can think of a dozen real mythological gods and fictional ones who would love thievery, and so thieves cannot read clerical writing nor use clerical spell scrolls. For two more funny bits of history, however, halflings in D&D used to be outright called hobbits. Then the Tolkien estate got involved, a sentence that should be read with the same amount of fear as "the Covenant are on reach." Also, lycanthropes at this stage all moved about as stealthily as 7th level thieves, despite being, you know, big werewolves. Funny mental image for an outsider to think about, less so when your 3rd level thief realizes he's about to become a pile of gore on the ground from the werewolf that's been tailing him for hours. The Blackmore supplement brought assassins meanwhile. Assassins at this stage don't warrant staying on too much by my reckoning, because explaining them is very simple. For all the thief stuff like picking locks and disabling traps, they're a bit worse. In exchange, they can kill you much better, be it with poison weapons that could just flat out kill you if the saves are failed, or just being better at stabbing. For some reason, realizing an assassin has a poison blade would send their target into a frenzy that'll let them kill the assassin better, because fight or flight or some nonsense, I don't know, dude. Assassins are also perfect at disguising themselves even as the opposite sex, because apparently every assassin is an incredibly androgynous person. We finally discovered the gender fluid, folks. God, that was terrible. You also had to be a member of the Assassin's Guild because early D&D treated role-playing as half fun, half necessary chore. You could in theory ignore the guy trying to play as the assassin and hire an NPC, but I hope you had several 100,000 gold on you to hire anyone but the lowest level of NPC ones. Advanced D&D finally did thieves right, and by that I mean thank Christ they have a D6 of hit hit points now. Just about all of their abilities I mentioned above except for Spider-Maning on walls returns as well, of course getting better as you level. You still can Spider-Man on walls here, but you're not as inherently stealthy doing it. The morality restriction is now gone too, with a note saying that yeah, you probably should be a bastard since you are a thief, but you can be Robin Hood if you really want. Sneak attack now does quintuple normal damage at the highest level, quite an upgrade, but otherwise AD&D touched up the class nicely without too many changes outright. The assassin got some changes, such as the ability to potentially have a 50-50 shot of killing whoever their target was given the right circumstances, and a lot of roleplay stuff like encouraging you to become the new guildmaster of the Assassin's Guild. This is done by killing the last guy, of course, presumably through assassination. Intelligence is more important of a stat now, poison mechanics are more fleshed out, but overall there's still a slightly less thiefy but more killy version of the standard thief. Second at D&D saw the thief now become the rogue. Kind of. Funny thing is that the bard and the thief were now subclasses of rogue. Bards will of course be talked about later in their own video, but if you ever noticed a few odd similarities between the two classes, this is why. As for rogues, the lore here is that while no rogue has to be any alignment, they both tend to be shunned for their lifestyle as sneaky gets, as well as feel like they're entitled to a living from the world around them, and earning that living fairly isn't something they're too pressed about doing. AKA Garrett from the Thief games. The original Thief games, of course, we can all ignore Thief 4. Funny thing about that on a near completely unrelated side tangent is that that was the first Thief game I ever played. It was an Xbox Games with Gold free game one month and I got it. It was alright. Then I played the other Thief games and was like, damn, this actually blows ass. Anyways, D&D, yes. The Thief subclass is overall largely the same, however the backstab bonus damage has been changed rather heavily in that it can now see use in combat as long as you can surprise whoever you're shanking. Before it was a very complex thing that had to be done outside combat and was as a consequence a bit of an all or nothing kind of deal, or at least exclusive to the opening of a fight. Now you can pull it off mid-encounter. The same 4+ to hit and max of 5 times normal damage stuck around too, which is nice. The Bard's trade-off was incidentally, and very briefly since this ain't their video, getting some magic via music and being able to do very basic level rogue things. Then the Thieves handbook came out, split all about this subclass. We're gonna TLDR a lot of it though, because while I do like hearing the sound of my own voice, I'd like to think that I and everyone else on this channel have better things to do than listen to me list off about a squillion magical items. There's all sorts of handy items in here for everything from camouflage to forgery to tasteful jewelry to steal, but how about we stick to some archetypes? Mobster is exactly what you think it is. Make someone an offer they can't refuse, and if someone sees you making a shady deal, tell them to forget about it. It's advised you come from a crime family and be either lawful, neutral, or evil, but there's plenty of room there to make a decently sympathetic mobster if you want. Or just be a greedy bastard. I can't imagine many people will get on your case for role-playing your organized crime boss character as an asshole. Vigilantes, meanwhile, are exactly what you think. You are Batman. That's it. They're even advised to have the same general background as that of a folk hero, because they are Batman. And then we have honor among thieves from the handbook, which is the best thing ever for keeping your rogue from being a total prick who steals from his teammates and then goes, yeah, but it's what my character would do. Thieves in this book are professionals, and professionals have standards. You've got 6 of them, in fact. Don't be a snitch, be honest to your guildmates about what you stole and share with those involved, agree on who gets what share, take care of your buddies who got caught because they'll do it for you, professionals share valuable information, and even if you hate them, help a fellow Thieves guildmate out. The response to the above whining statement should be, but that's not what a professional would do. And if they keep bitching, have the Thieves Guild clean up its house a bit by sending the Assassin's Guild after the player. By 3rd edition in 3.5e, the rogue finally looked more like the modern rogue than not. They can even worship gods now. How sweet. Thief gods like Oladamara, or even death gods like one named Nerul, but hey, that's infinitely more gods than they were allowed before. Although, yes, the rules book even mentioned that no, paladins and rogues are not likely to get along still. Turns out Mr. Straight-Laced and by the books doesn't get along with Mr. You weren't looking at it so now it's mine. Aside from being good at disarming them, rogues are now also better at outright finding traps. And backstab is now finally sneak attack, which changed quite a bit. It's now an additional d6 against the enemy you're hitting, which goes up with level, and applies even if you're just flanking the enemy instead of surprising them. Evasion is here now too, the perfect tool to immediately walk out of someone's engagement range with without provoking opportunity attacks and getting your d6 of health rogue pasted for their troubles. And there's more too. At levels 10, 13, 16, and 19, you can take a feature to make yourself more of a dirty fighting bastard. Opportunist lets you hit an enemy a friend already hit, Defensive Rolls lets you Dark Souls fast roll away from a hit and take less damage, and Slippery Mind helps you break free from magical effects on your character. If you don't want any of them, you can always just take a feat here instead. The class feature is otherwise quite similar. You have proficiency in basically all the skills ever, have 8 plus intelligence times 4 points to put into skills, and get 8 plus your intelligence more points on leveling. Thieves in this day had proficiency in all simple weapons, as well as some more interesting ones like a rapier or a hand crossbow. Overall, still fairly similar to what came before, but sneak attack becoming sneak attack as we know it now was huge. 4th edition continues to be scary and eldritch, and it confuses and frightens me, sir, but it decides to pull things back to a bit earlier in editions and make them Batman again. There were 2 archetypes, Trickster and Brawny. Brawny was more about outright dealing damage, while Trickster was more about being an annoying little fly to try and hit, but both of them were supposed to be all about weaving in and out of combat, like Batman, using unique weaponry like daggers and shurikens to weaken and pounce on weakened foes. Being rewarded for being a dirty thief is still here, but you are mostly supposed to be playing the rogue like Batman, desperately trying not to get pulped by one of DC's heavier hitters. Also, for some reason I can't fathom, the rogue class has an ability called Mob Mentality. It helps them start riots. Now, aside from this being something I imagine a much more charisma-focused class should be doing, do I really need an ability dedicated specifically to starting riots? As a barbarian knockoff class, I started a small-scale battle droid revolution against the Separatists and Republic alike in a Star Wars game once. I promise you, you don't need to try hard to get a riot going. The hit points at starting level are 12 plus gone though, which is nice of 4th ed for doing. Coming close to modern times, we have the 5th edition Rogue, where the developers of D&D finally remembered that, yes, I would much rather be playing as Garrett Thief and not Batman. I like Batman, but Rogue has connotations to it that he doesn't, you know? Role-playing wise, they're flavored as versatile people, in the sense that no matter their morality, they're usually willing to break whatever laws may exist to get the job done. Sometimes the job is theft on behalf of another party or their own bank account, and sometimes the job is sending someone to their afterlife. The fine folks researching this have very kindly made the assumption that I would write in the script here that this rogue is likely targeting a bad person, but I'll level with you, viewer. My favorite D&D characters I've played were a Sith Lord, an HK droid who could transform like Megatron, and a skeleton assassin who was, shall we say, flexible in her morals. Murder whoever you want if it pays the bills. Sneak attack is once again the screw you I'm flanking so you take 10d6 extra damage version, and now works as long as you have either advantage on the attack or are flanking the enemy. Expertise lets you choose to become even better at rolling certain skill checks. You like adding your proficiency bonus to things? Well, with expertise, you can double your proficiency bonus. And then we have cunning action, which makes me perform a coming action whenever I use it. As a bonus action, you can dash, disengage, or hide. Anyone can do those actually, not just rogues, but unlike everyone else, now you aren't wasting an entire round essentially to do so. Dash is perfect for getting into position, while disengage means you can waltz in and out of opportunity attack range with impunity. I still hold that hide has value, however, because consider this. A fight went bad, and the party is about to be wiped. You, cunning rogue, hide and escape. You are not abandoning your party, but sneaking off to grab yourself a couple scrolls of resurrection you squirreled away for a situation like this. And just like that, what was a party wipe and potential campaign ender is turned into you and yours making a getaway from death itself. Hit points are now DA plus con modifier, with proficiencies being much the same, albeit with things like longswords now showing up, and thieves' tools being more prominent a thing. Your proficient saving throws are dexterity and intelligence, and for skills you pick 4 between acrobatics, athletics, deception, insight, intimidation, investigation, perception, performance, persuasion, sleight of hand, and stealth. Dexterity should always be your main stat, but after that there's one reason or other to put points into anything. Con as always is my recommended second highest stat because more health is more gooder, but with how many skills you can choose to be proficient in, nothing is truly a waste, even if I really wouldn't recommend making yourself a strength rogue. Also, this is a total side tangent, but if you can, absolutely try and convince your DM to let intimidation be always based on your highest stat instead of just charisma. I'm sure it's for balancing, but I've known plenty of charismatic people in real life that couldn't scare me if they tried, and I've known plenty of brick shithouses who couldn't talk their way out of a paper bag. I know which of those two kinds of people I wouldn't want to piss off. There's also Uncanny Dodge, letting you as a reaction have how much damage an attack does to you. Brilliantly balances out how much damage you can take in compensation for potentially lower hit points. And of course, Thieves and Assassins return to subclasses, because some people just want to skulk around taking money, and others want to kill people like flicking off a light switch without them knowing they were ever there. From Xanathar's Guide also comes the Swashbuckler, because pirates are roguish and fun, and the Inquisitive, where you can either be the ultimate loose cannon detective who doesn't play by the rules, or the fucking Punisher. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, meanwhile, gives us the Phantom, for the rogues dabbling in necromancy, and the Soul Knife, an assassin with psionic powers. Why stab someone with a normal knife when your massive and throbbing brain knife can get the job done just as well? As for actual D&D lore of associations of rogues, the Harper Scouts are the premier example. While not thieves, per se, they're a secret society dedicated to holding back evil, preserving knowledge, and keeping civilization nice and balanced. Most of them are bards, but there's a few rogues hanging about as well, and remember that a bard used to be a rogue subclass, so that fits perfectly well. And on the Sword Coast, for everything ever is on the Sword Coast, we have the Shadow Thieves. Once the most powerful of this kind of guild, they were smashed by the Lords of Waterdeep and forced out of the city, with the occasional small splinter group still to be found while the group's leaders rallied at Arn. I have to say, and this might sound small, but I appreciate how they held themselves back from just calling it the Thieves Guild. Shadow Thieves ain't the most inspired of names, but it's better than just the Thieves Guild, or doing what every hack isekai anime does and making it the Adventurers Guild. God, I hate isekai so much. Almost all of them are the slop to end all slop. You aren't Konosuba, you aren't the saga of Tanya the Evil, please go away. No, I'm not watching ReZero and I'm done discussing it. We have rogue things to talk about still. D&D 5.5th edition. Let's go. All of the baseline stuff is the same as before. D8 hit points, dexterity and intelligence are the saving throws you're good at, yada yada. At first level, choose 2 skills you're proficient in and gain expertise in them, doubling your proficiency bonus in them. Do this again at 6th level as well. Sneak attack is the same dice damage of XD6 added, but now works when you have either advantage or an ally within 5 feet of an enemy you target with finesse or a ranged weapon. And Thieves' Cant lets you understand the secret thief language as well as one other of your choice. I always like to take Abyssal or something when I have that choice just to mess with people. You can choose the mastery property of 2 weapons of your choice as well, and every long rest you can choose a different one. At level 2 is when you get Cunning Action for all the clever horseshit you can pull with that, and at level 3 you get your subclass as well as Steady Aim. As long as you don't move, you get advantage on your next attack as a bonus action. You can't move afterwards, but it's a great way to guarantee yourself a sneak attack. Levels 4, 8, 10, 12, and 16 are your standard ability score increase. Nothing special here. Level 5 is quite interesting though, because you get Cunning Strike. In exchange for removing 1 sneak attack die, you can fall back, poison someone, or trip them. Highly helpful stuff, especially because if you always fall back, you can roleplay every fight as Joseph Joestar. You also get Uncanny Dodge at this level, so by this point you should always be getting some use out of your bonus action. Level 7 is the Evasion feature, which means on a successful dexterity saving throw, you take no damage and only take half on a failed one. Great stuff with how often those can come up. You also get Reliable Talent, which means any roll you make that ends up as a 9 or lower for an ability check you're proficient in counts as a 10. Now, admittedly, the amount of DC 10 skill checks coming up at level 7 and higher is probably low. But what this means is while you can still fail skill checks like these, you will never critically fail them. If you're picking lockpick, you can still fail, but you won't critically fail, break your lockpick, have it shatter and pierce your eyeballs, and then you fall on the floor and shit your pants so loudly the entire guard shift hears you. Levels 9, 13, and 17 are the rest of your subclass features. Nice stuff. At level 11, you can choose 2 Cunning Strike effects instead of 1 to really dick someone over. And at level 14, you get Devious Strike. It's like Cunning Strike, but more actively malicious, and yes, I'm including the fact Cunning Strike lets you poison people. Daze them to limit their actions, knock them out to, of course, knock them out, and presumably stab their unconscious body to death while you're at it, or Obscure to blind them mid-combat with Pocket Sand or something. Slippery Mind is at level 15 for some proficiency in Charisma and Wisdom saving throws, and by god are those 2 of the best saving throws to just get proficiency in, even if it takes till level 15. At level 18 you get Elusive, which is when no one can ever have advantage when attacking you. Yes, I see. Bullshit. But bullshit that helps you, so run with it. At level 19, you get an epic boon to choose from, and at level 20, you have the most potentially powerful ability ever. Once per long rest, a d20 you roll can be turned into an automatic natural 20. You win the dice roll simple as, because as every good rogue knows, the game was rigged from the start. Now then, example character time. Kolag Ghostblade is the tiefling son of a devil father and human warlock mother. He had a loving upbringing in spite of being raised in equal parts the Prime Material and 9 Hells, and his parents are unconditionally supportive of him and his life choices. So of course he dresses in all black, tries to scare children, steals, and tries to be a bad boy like he's part of the Greasers from The Outsiders. Why does he do this? Because he's a big bad tiefling man, and also doesn't want anyone to know he's mommy and daddy's special little boy, and is also a massive softie at heart. His stats are rolled as 14, 8, 10, 12, and 2 15s. Putting them into place, we have Strength 12, Dexterity 15, Constitution 10, 8 Intelligence because he's a bit thick, 14 Wisdom, and 15 Charisma. Hey Dutch, can you stop making characters with Constitution as a dump stat? I'm never gonna be a wizard in your party ever if you keep handing me shit like this.
Nuh-uh.
As a tiefling, we'll take the Fiendish Legacy, giving Kolag fire resistance and Firebolt to burn people with in turn, as well as Hellish Rebuke at level 3. As extra languages, Halfling because thief stuff, and Goblin because that seems like what this edgelord would learn. And of course as the background, Criminal. We'll get proficiency in Sleight of Hand and Stealth, as well as a Disguise Kit and Alert as a feat. This also gives +1 to Dex for a nice and even 16 in that stat, as well as +2 to Intelligence, presumably because someone literally beat some street smarts into him at one point or other. For starting equipment, 2 daggers, Thieves tools, 2 sets of Traveler's Clothes because having a secondary outfit is always a good idea for a thief, and of course, a crowbar. For the person who created Kolag, this is no doubt intended to be used to break and enter as quietly and efficiently as possible into people's houses to steal. Personally, I'd be Jason Todding people left and right with it. Starting as a level 3 rogue, we also get a few more things to add to the pile. Athletics and Deception for full expertise with additional proficiencies in Acrobatics and Intimidation, taught to him by Daddy Dearest. We'll add knowledge of the Infernal language into his repertoire because that just seems fitting for a tiefling, and Kolag's weapon masteries are the short sword and short bow. As for additional starting equipment, we got 2 more daggers, a short bow, a short sword, 20 arrows and a quiver, more thieves tools, a burglar's pack, and 8 more gold pieces. Kolag is the kind of bastard to not only spend all his time brooding in the corner of a tavern quietly nursing a drink and smoking a pipe, but also to have all 4 of his daggers strapped to his chest and probably be carrying around all his weapons as visible as possible as well. This is because Kolag forgets the Punisher works best when he's shaped like a human fridge and not a tiefling twink. But his subclass is Thief, and he sure is the thief with a heart of gold if you couldn't tell from how much I've been making fun of him. And he is good at it, for all that he isn't good at being a bad guy. Anyone who can stomach the initial social awkwardness that is bound to come from interacting with him will be showered with whatever gifts he can find and taken to nice lavish meals and more. Where did he get the money for all this and the gifts? Well, how about you stop asking questions there, pal, and just accept his generosity. As for my personal way of playing a rogue, nightmare, 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 be an asshole, steal from party members, murder every NPC that's slightly rude to you in their sleep, be as much of an active hindrance to the party as possible. I did not think about if what I'm stealing is worth the potential consequences, I did not consider if the person whose throat I slit deserved it, and most importantly, I did not ask if that magical weapon on the ground would be best suited to another party member. It's mine, I'm going to sell it for crack money, and if you question me in the slightest, I'm probably faster than you are, and I'm going to come back in the middle of the night and start team killing until the DM or other players physically assault me. Why would I do this? Because in every campaign I play with my friends, I'm forced to be the party's moral compass. And I'm done. I am done wrangling idiots. I'm gonna be the monster now, and you can either stop being assholes literally every other game despite telling me that, no guys, I swear I'll be a good guy this time, or accept that it's my turn to be the problem child. And rant aside, that was the rogue. A long and varied history, especially given bards were involved for a bit. But no matter what shape they take, thief, assassin, or something else, you'll always be a sneaky git doing sneaky git things. As always, please consider if you wouldn't mind all the YouTube pleasantries. Like, comment, subscribe, you know the ones. And of course, thank you for watching, take care out there, and have a good one.